Across the country, riots. From big cities to small towns, federal agents begin mass deportation, causing a crisis in our country and in our communities. But what happens when ICE dials 911? Agents were quickly overwhelmed as an ICE raid in a small town drew protesters, who also called 911, drawing police into a civil war. We'll show you the full body cam. We'll use our expertise to break it all down. All that and what it means for your weekend at the Comm Center. Wake up, America. It's the Comm Center with Drew Breasy. It's a TV show on the internet about two best friends who are called by a small town sheriff to investigate when a 400-pound statue of Teddy Roosevelt made of solid butter disappears from the Harvest Jubilee. I'm John. I'm an actual 911 dispatcher. Joining me, as always, is former police officer Andrew Baxter. He goes by the fake name Drew Breasy. He's an authentic cop, 29 years on the force. Drew, let's go straight to the 911 call out of Worcester, Massachusetts.
Worcester Police Department recorded.
This is Agent Anton with Immigration. We have officers that need assistance in your location, please. Your city.
What's the address?
36 Eureka Ave, Worcester.
36 Eureka Ave. And what department are you with?
ICE.
Okay.
I need you to get there as fast as they can.
What happened?
We have a crowd surrounding an officer, and he's requesting immediate assistance.
Are you on scene with him, or is he by himself?
No, we are at the Joint Intake Center. Worcester.
You're at 36
Can you send units, please?
Worcester? I'm going to send units.
Yes. Beautiful.
Any weapons that they can tell?
Other than the agents, no.
Okay. Hold on 1 second. Luca, can you get this other PD out? There's one ICE agent against a group of people.
That's okay.
About how many people is it?
How many agents do you have with him, please? So he's at Eureka and Main Street.
Eureka and Main. We got 5.
Oh, sorry.
I got 5 officers there. Say that again.
How many people are surrounding the officer?
About 25.
25 people surrounding one officer. All right, what's your phone number?
That's redacted.
We're on our way.
Thank you.
Okay, John, that's the first 911 call. What kind of stuff do you see or hear when you take a call like that?
Listen to the background. That Comm Center is insanely busy. There's lots of 911 calls coming in. And I presume a lot of them are coming from the people that are gathered around this ICE agent. It seems like the callers are wanting the police to come in and to stop the federal agents from doing their job, which is not going to happen. Something else that's frustrating about this is that a law enforcement officer, a federal agent, is having to call 911 for backup. That federal officers are conducting a raid or collecting someone, and they're not integrated with the police department's local radio communications.
Right. That's a safety issue. We've done an episode or two in the past about people calling the police on the police. And you even heard, I don't know that the person that called 911 in this instance was actually an ICE agent. I had the feeling it's like maybe an analyst or a processing agent or something to that effect.
Somebody works at a control center, right? That's
right. But did he not have all the earmarks of what you normally hear in a 911 call? Mm-hmm. Like some of the common things. What are some of the common things that you heard?
Just send a unit, which is funny because that happens a lot on 911 calls where you ask a lot of questions and the person is feeling the pressure of the emergency. So they want to skip to the end. They're like, can you just send a cop? Well, when we ask you questions, it's not to see whether or not you qualify for police response. When you dial 911 and it calls for a police response, the police are going to be dispatched. They're likely on the way. However, when they're on the way to you, we want to know specifics so that we can give those details to the officers arriving on scene. For example, she asks, how many people are there? If there are 3 people there, we will not need many police officers to respond. However, there are 25 people there, which means we will have quite a few police officers responding. We need to know if there's anyone there who has weapons. It's going to completely dictate the style and approach of their response, whether it's lights and sirens with a gun partially pulled out of a holster by an officer driving a car on the way there, or if it's just going to be sort of a peaceful demonstration where we can show up and cooler heads still have a chance to prevail. That's going to dictate everything. Also, knowing if weapons are there will tell us what kind of other resources we may need. Is someone else already hurt? Is it possible that we needed to have an ambulance or paramedics on standby to enter the hot zone? Drew?
It's not necessarily something that she delineated, but it's important. His answer was important because he was like, other than our guns, I don't think so. Which is like, okay, good. So this isn't an armed civil war occurring right in front of us, though figuratively, maybe it is. But you need to know as an officer through the person that you're talking to on 911, but you need to know as an officer if you're about to enter somewhere where it's a potentially blue on blue situation where you got some plainclothes guys that might just have a neck badge and a gun out, and you might not see that neck badge, but you might see the gun. So these are the kinds of things that you need to be aware of, like when you're on the way as an officer. So I think what we'll do, John, is we'll play the second phone call because we can compare and contrast the two.
Horrible.
911, the Sandra Quarter, what's the address?
There's ice all over the place on Eureka Street doing I don't know what. And they don't have an arrest warrant, and folks are trying to get them to show an arrest warrant, and they won't show an arrest warrant. Could you get the police chief here now?
Okay, what is this address? Confirm it one more time. Where on
30 Eureka Ave. They're
30
starting a riot.
Okay. How many people?
Have the chief of police show up here now.
I need to know how many people.
30, I don't know, it's like 20 ICE people. And there's no police, not a single police officer, and they're not showing any arrest warrants.
Okay. All right. I will go ahead and we'll put a call in as soon as option available. They'll ask.
I just want to point out, he's with the now and the police chief and now, and
these are demands.
Yeah, these are demands, and he's saying things like, there isn't a single police officer out here. And look what he's looking at.
Guys, police, ICE agents, other federal agents are sworn law enforcement officers. Those are police officers. He's mad because he doesn't see any representatives of the Worcester Police Department, and he feels like that's the only legitimate law enforcement agency, or he feels that the federal agents should be working in tandem, like it should be a joint task force. You should see Worcester PD there with the federal guys. Basic concept of federalism, guys, is concurrent jurisdiction. Worcester Police has jurisdiction within the city limits of Worcester. Massachusetts State Police has jurisdiction in Worcester and the rest of Massachusetts, but not Rhode Island. And ICE has jurisdiction in the entire United States to include Massachusetts and Worcester. So when you see an ICE agent in your local community, they have jurisdiction there. They're not out of their jurisdiction, and they don't need your local police agency to go with them to help them enforce the law. Drew?
There's a recent article about a sheriff's office down here in Florida, believe it or not, that it wasn't ICE, but it was like FBI or somebody did a raid because they were working on a drug trafficking organization investigation, and they didn't notify local law enforcement because previously they had notified local law enforcement and the people were tipped off. So they felt that there was a leak or some kind of corruption going on within that department. So they kept them completely separated in the dark. And that's their prerogative.
Well, when you have judges helping suspects escape a courthouse, we have to take that into consideration now at all levels.
It could definitely be anybody. So without belaboring the point, you know, what I'm saying is these guys all have police and ICE all over their front and back chests and vests and on their chest and on their back. They all have badges prominently displayed. They all have guns on their hips. And this guy is dramatically saying, they're out here, they won't show us a warrant. There's not a police officer in sight, which is making it sound like you guys need to get here because they're kidnapping someone.
Mm-hmm. He knows they're ICE agents because why else call for the chief of police? He's making demands. This is, by the way, this 911 call is not a call for help. This is very much This is a power struggle call for help. This is
Yes.
very much in the style of almost a hostage taking. But they're saying they want the chief of police to come out here and establish law and order, as if this federal agency, the only ones that they're going to be able to interact with is the top dog himself, the chief of police. Hey, before you do anything else, make sure you're doing all those YouTube things. Hit like, hit subscribe, and there's a good chance that we said something by now that was inaccurate or pissed you off. So go ahead and leave a comment below and we'll get back to you. Drew?
My guess is there was an angry town meeting or an angry city council meeting where the chief of police is like, everyone calm down. We're not working with ICE. We're just, because everybody's so inflamed about this.
Okay, so they said, and we're speculating here, I guess.
Yeah, we're
like when the police say, well, we're not working with ICE. So when you see ICE on the street and you don't see Worcester police there, I guess that's what you asked for.
Yes, that's
you don't want Worcester police cooperating with federal agents. Then what you're going to see is federal agents taking law enforcement actions without your local law enforcement. Now we need to address the major thing that we've skipped so far, because this is happening a lot. I'm seeing this a lot on TikTok, on Instagram. Citizens angry that when they approach an ICE agent, they say, do you have a warrant for his arrest? You're not their lawyer. These police officers are under no obligation to show you that they have any reason to be there. Unless you're acting as an attorney for the person who's being arrested, you don't have any business asking them for anything. And maybe if you feel like you do as a conscientious objector to the problem, okay, you can, but they're not under any obligation to treat you with any legal regard as far as how that situation goes. The person that they're arresting is an adult. You're not their attorney. Legally speaking, it's not any of your business. Morally, you could say it is, but legally it's not. Drew?
Okay, an arrest warrant works this way, like whether it's an ICE detainer warrant, it's going to be entered into a national database, the National Crime Information Center. John has access to it. I had access to it when I was a cop. That's where the warrant rests. So people want to see this warrant, like they're going to pull out a scroll and, it doesn't exist. It doesn't work that way.
It's a piece of paper signed by a federal judge that's sitting in a filing cabinet in an office building downtown. Okay, right. Not everyone's going to be walking around with a copy of it. The warrant gets confirmed most of the time by a dispatcher, whether they're federal or local, and then officers or agents will go out and arrest that person based off of that confirmation, which comes over the radio. Someone who has the document communicates, we have it, go ahead and arrest them.
And this is why I always say, people are like, well, I'm going to call my attorney. And this is why I always say, please call your attorney, because your attorney I can reason with. I can't reason with you. And it's understandable. They will probably extend the courtesy to show you the warrant, but they're not going to do that while they're in the process of an arrest.
They're also not going to do it when they're surrounded by an angry mob. They're going to effect their arrest and get out of there. If the situation appears remotely dangerous, they're not going to stop and take time and assuage your anger, which, by the way, will not be assuaged by a piece of paper anyway.
Just let me put them in the car. I will show you the warrant and all this other stuff. There are things that we're maybe overlooking that compassionate people, myself included, believe it or not, have to think about. And it's not just the optics, but it's the gut-wrenching feeling of taking a mother away from their daughters, from taking a father away from a hardworking guy away from his family, but these, from what I understand, these the top level that they're detaining and deporting have committed crimes in the United States of America. So they're here illegally, some would argue. And while they were here, they still committed a crime. This case in particular, John will read the article, this was a domestic violence situation. So it's they're not walking into your school, your neighborhood school, and plucking kids out of a classroom. That's a myth. That's internet lore. And that's what gets everybody inflamed like this. This is what social media does. This is the same fervor that we're living in with the Karen Reed trial. There's just so much bad information about what should happen or what could have happened or what, whatever, that this is the world we live in. Now everybody's going to resist the cops. This is why the cops are, by the way, being ambushed. This is why the cops are committing suicide at high levels, because of this pressure right here. Nobody wants to break this family up. Nobody wants to do any of this stuff, but there are decisions that were made for people to come into this country illegally. And there were decisions that were made once they were here that were counter to our laws, and they have to be held responsible for that. That's not the officer's fault. That's at some point, the person on the other end of the handcuffs has to take responsibility for that.
Now on the phone here, what is the emergency?
I'm at 16 Eureka Street, and there are people trying to take people away without warrants.
All right, who's trying to take them away?
They're putting their hands on people. They're putting their hands on people that are not even, they're just. I need somebody here.
All right, ma'am, you're in Worcester?
Yes.
Okay. How many people are there?
They're forcibly moving people right now, and they're trying to take somebody away. There's somebody, a field office federal officer, putting his hands on people, and they're trying to remove somebody.
All right, give me 1 second.
The cops are here. The cops are here.
Okay, now what's your police center?
911 calling. 911, this line's recorded. What's the address?
Yes, I'm at 3016 Eureka Street. I'm calling on behalf of City Councilor Atal Hajiai, and we need Chief Saucier here now.
That was the good counselor that just took a swing at the, or pushed off hard on the federal agent.
Okay. We're here trying to deport 3 women. And
Okay.
baby.
And you said you were calling in regards to who?
On behalf of City Councilor Atal Hajiai.
Okay. And is
asked
the
me to
city
call.
councilor there?
Yes, she's being.
Okay, so I'm going to call out something that should be obvious. City councilor should have a phone number for the police chief in her own phone.
Yeah. But
Why is this going by way of a third party through the 911 dispatcher? This is very strange to me because this person who I guess is a city councilor, instead of going out there and putting her finger in the federal agent's face, she could pull up in her car and call up the police chief and say, hey, we've got a situation out here brewing. And she could be against federal agents. That's fine. But we definitely need the chief of police here because this is liable to be a huge incident. She should be doing that just on the interest of the city. The city is very likely to have something boil over here. The city is very likely to get sued if somebody gets injured. The police chief should be there. The counselor should be there, but this shouldn't be happening this way. Drew?
You know what else she could be doing, John? She can be restoring order instead of creating chaos.
But this is what helps get her votes, is what she can play this B-roll during her re-election campaign.
Well, she can play it during her trial as well. Spoiler alert, she can do that during her trial. But look at the agent on the screen there. Does it look like he's having an easy time with either of these people? Now, I think
see hands up, calling, asking for calm.
Yeah, like they're
not doing this. They're going like this.
You saw the city councilor push and intervene and then look back and see the body camera and look shocked. We'll see it more in a minute.
Held by ICE. They're right now pushing her and a group of other women who are trying to put.
Okay, my car got broken into. My laptop's missing. Okay, well, we'll be out there when we get out there. Oh, by the way, there was a gun in there, and I think he's still in the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. What that's going to do is create like a different level of response, and you know it, and you know it's not true.
It's also going to create an exigency where someone's responding like someone's armed when they may not necessarily be, which could get somebody killed. If someone reaches for something and an officer assumes that it might be a firearm when we have no reason to think that it might be, that could be a dangerous situation.
Not only killed in that sense, but John, when you're dealing with an armed burglary that just occurred, you're going to try to get there pretty fast. So you're going to run people off the road. Like it's just like you think that you need to get there to save a life, but it turns out they're just exaggerating a little bit.
And we're going to be creating additional problems. Like you said, if a police officer is running code 3 lights and sirens to the situation, and there's any kind of collision, all of a sudden we have more victims. We have more crime scenes, crashes to investigate. We have more resources that we have to send out and divert away from the real problem We have to go by what callers say. We cannot evaluate whether a 911 caller is telling us the truth. We can't afford to take that gamble that they might be lying.
Yep. And
we're legally prohibited from doing that. We cannot do that. We do not get to screen calls. We do not get to say, well, this person calls all the time and they're always a liar. We can't even use past experience to inform that and make a judgment call. So we always have to go by what the callers say, and callers very often are not telling the truth. Drew?
Yep, here we go.
All right.
We need cheese sauce here. Get cheese sauce.
I left that in there because you can see very clearly. You're about to see her bounce back because she got pushed away, but you can see she's pushing.
That's battery.
Yes. And on a federal agent, it's a pretty serious offense. And you're going to hear 100 more times in about a minute of everyone complaining. He put his hands on me. Don't put your hands on me. Get your hands off of me. But they have no problem. Like it's basically, hey,
childishness. If you think about it, it's little kids. It's little kids putting their hands in each other's faces. Like he's not touching me. He's touching me. And
this is plastic too, though. It's like let me just poke the tiger through the cage, and then when the cage door opens, and you get your ass whipped, you're like the victim now. All of a sudden, you're the victim because the officer didn't want to be spit on and then pushed and then shoved, and somebody tapped his gun. And how about you not do that?
I have officers on the way. I need to confirm you're saying, I understand, ma'am, but I need to confirm you're saying it's the city councilor being held currently?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And you want cheap sauce here?
Yes. The chief of police. I need him here right now.
Officers will be over there as soon as we have someone available, ma'am, okay?
Oh, the baby. Oh, my God. The baby.
Somebody will be there as soon as they can.
All right. I don't want to hear complaints about a baby either. I'll be real honest, because we didn't put the baby there. We want nothing as a police officer to do with a baby in this situation. Like, it is the worst place in the world for that poor little baby to be in at that moment. And we didn't put the baby in the middle of that. You did. So don't start complaining and crying because there's a little baby involved in this. Talk to the people that brought the baby. Tell them to get the hell out of there.
In some ways, complaining that there's a baby there and implying that that's a reason why the police should retreat. What kind of person are you if you're going to take an issue that's important to you because of your conscience? You don't like what you're seeing, but you're going to bring your baby to that situation? Right. Now you're just using your baby as a shield, either figuratively or literally.
Was the police operator 294? Are you reporting an emergency? No, this is ICE. We have people fighting on scene at Eureka. Are you guys there? We are not there, but we have the call. They're on their way there. What's your ETA? I don't have an ETA. Okay, can you get me one? I got officers engaged with an active group there.
Sky, do you have an ETA for Eureka?
So typically we don't give out ETAs over the phone because what if we could be wrong? I think he just kind of gut reacted there saying we don't give out ETAs. So that's why we say we don't have an ETA. Something else that's kind of a nuisance to 911 dispatchers is like, and Drew, you're going to have to clear this up for me. Like, what good does an ETA do you? It doesn't get them there any faster. I mean, you have to hold out until help gets there, whether it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes.
It's about managing your strength and your breath control, but other than that, like it's sometimes a liability or it's sometimes dangerous when you're standing there. Like, we used to have the microphones on our shoulders, or I'm even back when we just had the radio on our side. I never wore an earpiece, so if like I'm about to fight with somebody and the dispatcher gets on and says, "Hey, 2 Nora 4, what's your ETA?" And he says, "I'm 3 minutes out. I'll be right there." Do you think the bad guy doesn't understand what 3 minutes out means? The bad guy is like, "Oh, you got 3 minutes to get your ass whipped now." Mm-hmm. And then the fight is on. Like, what if he says he's like, "Man, I'm on the other side of the earth. I got 15 minutes before I'm going to be there." So yes, I understand the urgency, and people do this all the time, especially in medical, and cops do it. And cops are notorious for I know it drives you insane, John, as a dispatcher. Like, what's the ETA on EMS? When's the EMS going to get here? It's because you're dealing with screaming people and blood and all kinds of stuff, but
it's because they're under stress.
It's not going to make them get there any quicker. It's like sometimes it's just like that calming sense of reality. It brings you back into reality. Like, okay, I got to manage this chaos for another 3 minutes, and oh, thank God they're here.
Helps you feel a little bit more control, maybe
Just a little
emotionally.
bit.
But it's tough because us as dispatchers, 8 hours we're doing that. There's not any help coming for us, right? It's like you just hope that the next shift isn't late to work. Otherwise, you're managing it the whole time. So
don't you wish
when
somebody...
someone can't hold out for 3 minutes, you're just like, well, the phone's gonna ring for me after that anyway. So toughen up, Buttercup. You know?
Don't you wish somebody would ask your ETA to home? Like, John, what's your ETA? When are you going home? What's your ETA?
Only.
They should be pulling up soon. I don't have an ETA.
Okay. All right. Hey, Worcester should be pulling up any second.
Worcester said they should be pulling up any second. Is what.
Additional. Do we have additional? Hey, this is ICE. You guys on scene? We've lost comms with our agent.
Yeah, we have about 15 officers there.
Beautiful. Worcester's on scene with 15 units. Thank you.
Okay.
That's very common. We deal with it here at the state level where we have dispatchers for state troopers, and obviously I dispatch for a county. And sometimes we can have two agencies on hand, and the state dispatcher can't get in touch with their state trooper.
It's
so they grow concern for them, concern for their safety. Obviously, the trooper's just busy, whether it's handling a semi that's on fire or a country that's on fire emotionally. In the case of these ICE agents,
yeah.
But they'll call me and say like, "Hey, do you have county units out with my state guy? Because I want to make sure he's okay." So that's very normal.
One in every maybe 100,000 or 300,000 times, though, there's an officer lying on the side of the road with a bullet in his head.
It's possible, yeah. If nobody's with him,
you're more than likely dying 3 deaths as a dispatcher when you can't get a hold of somebody that you sent into battle.
Yeah.
Is that true or not?
Absolutely true. And I'll tell you why. And in part, we're doing a disservice to that feeling right now because we're sitting here and we're watching this. We can see ICE here. We can see a whole bunch of ICE agents, and we can see a whole bunch of police officers there. And as you look around, you see, okay, the situation's tense. We got this guy in a National Geographic Society t-shirt that thinks he's Captain Badass over here. Okay. So that
it actually says National Sarcastic Society.
Does it really? Okay, yes, so he might be slightly more badass. So anyway, I love an old guy wearing a sarcastic T-shirt. That's a dangerous guy. But anyway, so we can't see this, right? All we have to go by is we get on our radio and we call 2 Nora 4. What's your status? And all we hear back is silence. We don't hear the open mic of people talking, of people reasoning. We don't see live body cam of people calming each other down and getting separated. All we have is silence. And in our minds, in that silence, 1,000 terrible things have happened. And when you're in that moment and you're trying to make sure that someone is 10-4 upright and they're still active and still handling the scene, a lot of things can go wrong and you can panic quickly. And if it's a situation like this where basically the cops have called 911,
yeah,
it's a bad situation. And I can understand why emotions would run hot and you would be worried very quickly here.
There's a retention problem within 911, within dispatcher land. Surprise, surprise. And I would do exit interviews when people wanted to leave, before they finished their training. And I'll tell you, the most common thing I heard was the nervousness or the anxiety they feel in a situation just like this. They feel like they are marching someone into their death. And when they don't answer the radio, they obviously assume the worst, which is probably good to a degree because, then you're
taking some action. Yeah.
Right. But it's also very bad on the adrenaline and all the hormones that are raging through your body. And that's working on your heart, and it's working on your lungs, and it's working on your brain. And all these other things that people don't really think about. And dispatchers are not paid like law enforcement officers. They're not even treated as first responders. They're treated as clericals. So there were 5 body cams. I think I just chose one of them. Let it play so the viewer can experience what I would have experienced walking up to that. Let's see how you deal with this chaos. Okay, no audio because he's just arriving. All right, okay.
There's no
All right.
All right, listen. All right, back up. City council. a baby. Stop, 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 stop.
Give me my fucking glasses.
Stay there. You're hurting her.
Hey, would you stop this?
Listen,
Would you stop it?
listen.
Take her!
Sit down. You're hurting her. You're hurting her.
Arresting a mom 2 days ago.
An innocent woman! You do not show any warrants! Get out of our neighborhood! Get out of our neighborhood!
Oh yeah, right here, guys. Right here.
Stop right there.
Stop. They'll explain.
No, they will not! They do not have a judicial warrant!
Stop.
You stop!
You're supporting them.
I'm not supporting anybody. I'm not supporting. They have the jurisdiction. They have not shown any jurisdiction.
Warrant!
Okay?
They've shown zero paperwork.
No, it's not her fault. You have no right to arrest her.
We do not need a judicial warrant for this arrest. Ma'am, you gotta step away from the vehicle. You gotta step away from the vehicle.
You don't want to get the challenger.
Ma'am, you gotta step away from the vehicle.
Move off the vehicle. Move off the
You
vehicle.
gotta step away from the vehicle. We'll work it out. We'll work it out. You guys got information for now? How are you gonna work out a warrant list? Come on. Come on, dear.
How are you going to work out the warrant list?
Yeah, if you want it, just ask it. Guys, you gotta step back. You gotta step back. You gotta step back. Yeah, we got past home. Don't fucking touch me. Stop, guys, stop. Guys, you gotta step away from me. Nothing's gonna change.
You are hurting her! Get out of here!
You can't allow him to do that.
They have jurisdiction.
He's hurting her. You have a duty to intervene. He's hurting the car. He's hurting her. He's hurting her.
Okay, but she needs to step away from the car.
You need to tell him to not hurt her. Adam, get his hands off her.
Right.
Where is it?
Joe Riley.
Show us the warrant! Tell him to show her the warrant!
Joe.
Tell him to show you the warrant, that's all!
Joe.
Take the mother!
Joe.
Take the mother!
Move that car out of
Take the mother! Don't take the mother! Take the mother! Don't take the mother!
I know this is hard for you, but you can do something to bring it to an end. You don't have to facilitate this. You don't.
Get that car out of there.
At this point, you're facilitating this.
Why are you facilitating this?
Because we have no choice.
You do.
They have jurisdiction. They're federal.
They do not have a warrant!
You see how they're treating people. They're hurting people.
Out of the car. Out of the
Someone
way.
else
Out
there
of the way.
dialing 911.
Yes, they're still calling 911, by the way.
Out of the way, guys. Out of the way. You gotta get out of the way. Let's go. You guys gotta get out of the way.
Why do the women with no guns have more balls than you guys? Why?
Do something. You have the ability to stop this.
Why do the women with no guns have more balls than you guys?
No, we don't.
You do. This guy's putting
The first one that would be screaming that we are violating her civil rights would be that woman right there, the woman with the balls. And I'm telling you right now, they're protecting everybody's civil rights by doing what they're doing.
The police are protecting everyone's civil rights because we've seen on this body cam obstruction. We've seen people interfering with law enforcement officers, both federal and local at this point, I believe, trying to actively interfere with law enforcement doing their job. I don't think that I don't think that they should be dismissed. I think that they're allowed to protest. They're allowed to be there. They're allowed to assemble, and they're allowed to say whatever crazy things they want, even if it hurts the cops' feelings. You cannot touch a police officer. You cannot get in the way. And if you're going to wrap yourself around a car so that a car can't drive away, listen, you can do these things, but you need to understand something, and not just how a warrant works. And I'll say again that even if we pulled out a scroll and showed it to you, these people would not be going away. They'd be calling the warrant illegal.
Yeah.
But you have to understand this. And I appeal to the people who are against what the ICE agents are doing. This is time to grow up. If you're going to take a stand based on your moral beliefs, if you're going to do the right thing as you see it, you got to understand that there's consequences for doing the right thing far more often than there are even for doing the wrong thing. So if you are willing to stand in front of that car and link hands so that they cannot leave the scene, okay. But you may face charges of obstruction and other things for that. And you have to be willing to take on those consequences. And you may say, I'm willing to do that. Well, then I guess that process is going to pay out. But don't feel like you can leave your house in the middle of the day where you clearly don't have a job and you're going to interfere with police and you're going to have this big moral outrage about how the stormtroopers are coming and they're just following orders and all this. And you feel like you're going to be home at 5 watching this on the news, because you may very well find yourself in jail as well. And just make sure that's the price that you're willing to pay. And it could be that the charges will be dismissed later. I think in good taste, they probably will be, but it depends on you.
Yeah, they probably will. But like, you know, this is similar. This is like very small scale compared to what's happening in LA, obviously. But the footage I saw, like, it's heartbreaking, because I do understand that there are families that are affected by this, but then there are other people that are just interjecting themselves on behalf of those families that are making it 10 times worse for the family and for the people that are trying to enforce the law.
That's a great point. This person who's being arrested isn't about to be loaded up on a plane at Logan Airport and flown to Honduras. They're going to ICE detention, where we'll figure out what their status is.
Where they'll have access to the attorney and all this other stuff, like all this, like flying down to Colombia to
this response, this over response to arrest is going on everywhere in our society. Though, how often are we seeing people resisting arrest? They're fleeing from police. Police are getting involved in pursuits, but a lot of people are getting hurt because there's not respect for law and order, which means the police officer can come and take someone into custody, and from there, the Constitution is in command and protects that person at every step of the process. But we want to fight it out in the streets. We say, we're not having trial in a court. We're having trial by combat right here. That's mob justice. That's mob mentality, and that's mob rule. And it's not what the Constitution is. And mob rule is not rule that protects everybody. The Constitution is, Drew.
Yeah, I mean, easily stated, like, look, the First Amendment is very effective. You have the right to free speech, but your free speech does not come consequence free. So you have the right to peaceful assembly and all this other stuff. You also have a right to petition, which is another peaceful way of...
We seem to forget about petition, Drew.
Which is another peaceful way of talking to your government. But, you know, in this case, the government is out there with them and the participating in the violence. Mm-hmm. I just don't think it's a very constitutional thing to do. And that's not me passing judgment. I understand her fervor, and I do understand that a lot of people probably are fired up that she would stand up to the federal government like that, but the laws are written, and you know,
she should be smarter as a counselor, though. She should be smarter and realize
she has the power to change the law. She has the power to do all these other things, but it's all done by majority. It's all done by what the people want, not what the person.
Even if she doesn't, she should understand rule of law as someone who's a part of the government, where a situation morally unconscionable, if that's what you want to say, We still are a country of laws.
His hands on everybody.
We're
gonna slow it down. Guys, watch out, back up.
Shame, officer!
I'm just asking you to step away from the car. That's all I'm asking you. Thank you, Dan. Please just.
I just want to get her away.
Yeah, please.
Now that's a voice of reason right there. I believe that's the woman that called 911 on behalf of the city councilwoman or city council thing and person, whatever. But she's literally saying, "Can you please just let me go through so I can try to like reason with her, like pull her out of there because she's going to end up."
And police officers generally are okay with that. If there's someone who seems reasonable, who's
yes.
So much of it is your demeanor in this situation. If you can keep your head and you're not responding emotionally and crying and saying you have the power to change this and you don't have as much balls as some girl without a cop, like if you behave that way, you're going to get ignored. But if you are calm and level-headed, the police are going to respect you and understand you.
I told a story before it got edited out of quelling a riot one time, and
it's just going to get edited out.
That literally, I'm sure this is going to be edited out. Honestly, it's verifiable. It actually happened, but this is how it happened. It's dealing with somebody who has a cooler head that you can reason with. You can't reason with anybody else out there. Listen to what the guy in the green starts, the accusations he starts making in a second. You hear someone yelling, Worcester police is not supposed to be involved in this. But who called Worcester police?
You called Worcester. You called them there. So you can't have it both ways. You can't demand that they not be involved, but then call them to the scene.
Right.
So if they're going to be involved, I'm sorry, but they're going to be there to enforce the law, not to enforce mob rule.
You can stop this. You have the ability to stop this. The way they're treating people, you can file a report how they're treating people.
You guys gotta move.
You can document their names.
We gotta move. We have to move.
But you can stop the way they're treating people. You have the ability to stop them from hurting people.
We're gonna go. We gotta move.
Don't push.
You gotta move. No, we're not doing the baby thing. We're not doing the baby thing.
Everything's gonna happen now. Stop pushing. You see how they're treating people. You need to put that in your report.
I will.
You need to write that they're grabbing women by their breasts, sexually assaulting people.
Watch out.
I'm talking.
We're moving the vehicle.
So you're me, and you're wearing this body camera, and you're dealing with this guy, and you're trying to rationalize with him, and he's saying, you need to document this because they are grabbing women by their breasts and they're sexually assaulting.
I didn't see that.
Because it didn't happen. And this is what I say. This is exactly why this distills my anger and my angst in the comments section of a frickin' Karen Reed video. This is it exactly.
They come at you with some piece of with some update
bullshit
that never happened.
Yeah,
and yet people will read that and assume it's true and proceed from there.
And I totally get what most people are saying. I even say, look, I get your perspective. I understand where you're coming from, but you're not seeing it the way I see it. And I'm trying to give you this. I'm trying to give privy you to the view that we see. In not only just this video right here, right now, and my commentary added to it, but on the big picture in the 460 whatever videos we have on here. That's all I'm trying to do is give you the perspective that I have that you're calling corrupt. Like this guy right here in front of you, he's wearing jeans, he's got a badge on, it's his police, he's kind of squared away, he's got his glasses on. He was eating a bagel 4 minutes ago, and he's standing out here dealing with people telling him after they called 911 for him to be there to get out of their neighborhood.
Well, that's because they didn't get the result they wanted, though. They wanted Worcester to show up and arrest the ICE agents and let Mama go home. But because this is not a fantasy land, that didn't happen.
Right. So please, like, this is where it comes from. And everyone's going to assume that the cops are lying and that the cops are corrupt and the cops this and the cops that. Zero responsibility for anybody else. Zero responsibility for the people that don't have to take the stand and raise their hands. They can say whatever they want with impunity, with at free will. But when it comes down to it, these cops right here, they have to testify with their hands raised. So who's got the balls?
Talking to him.
That's fine. Talk over there. Let's clear the way, guys. Let's clear.
You know what's going on. They're taking the women and the children.
Taking our women and our children. Now, listen, I admire this woman. She is getting her point across. And to your point a minute ago, John, she's actually saying, if I have to go to jail for this, I'll go to jail for it.
Okay. And if that's your conviction, I'll at least respect that. But don't assume that you're not going to jail.
I respect it, but you're not. She's being unreasonable, and I say that based on the conversation you're about to hear.
They're already in the car. They're trying to leave.
We're in the vehicle. I'm talking to him. That's fine. Talk over there. Jay, let's go.
Where's the warrant?
Man, watch out. Man, watch out.
Where's the warrant?
Well, you can't be disorderly in the road there. Come on, just go to the sidewalk. You're not supposed to be in the street.
You're not supposed to be helping them.
I'm doing my job. My job is to come up.
Your job is to protect the community.
And I tried my best, but they have a federal. Federal.
Where is it? We're asking for it.
Well, then you ask them. I don't have the answer to that.
But she just accused the cops of taking our women and children. 1, 2, she's demanding to see a warrant that is in a computer system somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be shown to her.
Are we not going to demand an answer to the sexism? Like, what about the men? Maybe the men don't want to get deported, lady.
Maybe the men do want to get deported.
I don't know. I don't want to live
either.
in
But she's giving it to this guy like it's his fault, and then she turns around and she says, "It is your job to protect the community."
I don't think you realize what a big point you just made there. Normally you know, but now you didn't know, because to the citizen, the police, the dispatcher, whoever, it's all you. You're supposed to do this. And and in some sense they're right, because it's the government. We're a government of the people, by the people, for the people. So in a sense they're right, but it's also just you. You don't understand that, like, we're Worcester PD, not these federal agents. I don't have the answer to what's going on. I actually didn't arrange for them to show up and arrest this person this morning. I had nothing to do with it, because I'm here to enforce parking, and I'm here to enforce, making sure no one cuts in line at the high school later today during pickup. Like, that's what Worcester PD is there to do. They're not there to solve the nation's immigration crisis. But it also opens a bigger question, lady. You're supposed to do what the community tells you. Well, ICE is doing what the greater community of the country has asked them to do with the election last November, whether you liked it or not. That was the result of that.
And it's not the time and place for the argument, but you're
not going to solve anything here.
No, because you could easily just retort, like, I am protecting the community. I don't want a full-scale riot out here, but you guys are being crazy right now.
Yeah.
Like, you can voice anything you want. Just do it on the curb. Just let this car get out of here. Let them do what they're going to do. There's a process in place. There are checks and balances. No one's going to harm anyone. That's just lore that is being created by some dude in a green sweater. So just let them do what they can do. And then, yeah, okay, fine. And you're right. It's the pincushion effect. Like, you can't do anything right here in this situation. Everything you do is going to be wrong, which is essentially saying the same thing.
By
but
showing up, it was wrong. By not being there, it was wrong.
Right. You have no idea what pressure that is. And that's why I say, and go ahead and tell me I'm exaggerating. I don't care. I'm not trying to convince you of anything. I'm telling you how it is. This is the social pressure I'm talking about. that is driving the suicide rates among first responders, not just police officers, dispatchers, EMS, firefighters. This social pressure right here. You think that these officers are going to go home and just like, oh, that was a shitty day? No. They will.
First day is a shower beer, but after that, anything goes.
Right. I'm sure they'll go home and beat their pets. No, it's just like you don't understand the perspective of a first responder. And when a first responder tells you their perspective, the first thing that comes out of most people's mouths is, well, you're biased. You're a cop. You're just going to protect the thin blue line.
Or that's what you signed up for. Where you signed up for this.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone necessarily signs up to go interact with their community this way or to be treated this way. If you look at this, I encourage you to put yourself in the officer's shoes. Is he having a good time? He's not.
No. But she's in like, I do admire her conviction, but she's not being reasonable in the sense that
she's
we're
also
not going to show you this. We're not going to show you the warrant. It's not going to happen.
No,
so
but
get out of the way. Let them get out of here, and then we'll talk about it as a community, or we'll do whatever we need to do.
But this is what happens when people who got an F in high school government class, I hate to say that, but it's true. Otherwise, you would understand federalism, that there's concurrent jurisdictions at different level of government. And you would understand that the police chief can't come out and interfere with the federal investigation. So you got an F in that. And this is also what happens when an adjunct professor of pottery from a community college thinks he's coming out here and he's standing up to a deportation to Auschwitz, when that's not what it is.
Yes.
A lot of these people are out here to feel important, to feel engaged, and their social media feed, they want to show that they're a part of this. It's a lot of it has to do with their own self-image and their own vanity and their own self-importance. Let's not kid ourselves that that's a lot of what's going on, Drew.
You just said they have one.
I said they're
So
federal.
where is it?
They're federal.
They still need a warrant.
Then that's
Where's
Take
the
it up.
warrant?
Not true, though. That's not even true.
They do need a warrant, but it's going to be shown to the proper people. It's not just going to be shown to any average Joe citizen who feels like they need to intervene. It's going to be shown to the person and their attorney. Even if somebody is telling you, look, you've got the wrong person. I'm not the right person. Your warrant says it's me, but it's not. I'm a victim of identity theft. You still have the right to detain them in the back of your car and sort it all out. Like, that's not the time to start swinging and spitting at the cops.
It's also just unreasonable to even expect that them reacting this way to the police is going to get any kind of capitulation out of them.
Right.
The police are not going to simply surrender their subject based off of this. Just more people going to jail.
Right.
You guys want to I'm just crazy.
Hands off, please.
You are being disorderly in the road right now. You need to move.
I'm asking for a warrant.
Okay, I'm asking you to please, ma'am. Step on the
I'm not stepping away until I see a warrant. So she sees the warrant. It won't be the first time.
Okay, all right, that's fine with me.
So, when I'm on the right, I'm in the right and I don't mind getting arrested. Where's the warrant?
Where is the warrant?
Where's the warrant?
Sir, don't touch me. Don't touch me.
Don't touch her. Where's the warrant?
I mean, you want to start? Well, we're going to have to, but I'm waiting for the boss of the lieutenant. What do you want us to do?
Where's the warrant? Where's the warrant?
They're already in the car. They're trying to get the car out.
Trying to get the car out.
They do not have a warrant when they got there. She's putting her baby in harm. Fire! Oh, listen! Listen up! Oh, listen! Come with me. This is the dawn of this. Okay, all right, ma'am. Can I talk you over here? I'll talk you over here, okay? I'll talk you over here. Come on, it's okay. Let's go.
Where is the warrant?
Come over here.
I promise you that will haunt some of those officers for the rest of their lives. They will hear that scream for the rest, because I'm telling you, that brings me back to certain calls that I've been on. When you hear a family member shriek because they're being removed from a family member or being separated, or somebody died, or somebody's going to jail, that, you know, like a little kid screaming because their mom or dad is going to jail, that's what haunts you for the rest of your life. That's why you have bad dreams at night. It's not always just the blood and guts. That's part of it, but it's also this. And I can guarantee that Anybody with a badge that's watching or listening to this, tell me if I'm right or wrong.
This is an unlawful assembly. I'm ordering you to disperse right now. We need something to arrest. For what? This is the Worcester Police Department. For what? Unlawful assembly. You're interfering.
This is the problem, John. It's just it's question everything. It's like, I get it in a sense, but when the police, the government, says this is now an unlawful assembly because of the violence that's occurring, and we declare it an unlawful assembly, we don't get, oh shit, we get, for what? For what? Like, you don't know what you're talking about. Okay, because we're going to start taking people to jail now. The pepper spray is next. Get that baby out of here.
Do you regret calling Worcester PD to the scene now that they're telling you to disperse?
Right.
Because you could have stayed there and protested peacefully and not called Worcester PD on yourselves.
And get run over by ICE, more than likely.
He's coming forward. We need you to back up.
Yes, it is. You're obstructing the law enforcement. Yes, it is.
Just walk away here till we get the car by. Just corral her in. Just corral her.
Watch your child.
Your baby. Be careful of your baby. Be careful of your baby.
Watch your child.
Be careful of your baby.
Don't touch her! Don't touch her! You're supposed to be helping. You're supposed to be helping. What's the police officers aiding ICE?
Worcester police officers helping ICE. That's what you get out of that. So what were the Worcester police officers supposed to do in this scenario?
Again, it's childish and it's uninformed to expect that your local law enforcement are going to come out and stop federal law enforcement from doing their job. That's not what's going to happen. What you're talking about, locals stopping federals from doing their job, is literally what caused this civil war. And it was a constitutional crisis called nullification. And we're not going to play that out in this little neighborhood in Worcester, Massachusetts, 200 years later.
That's the shrieker around the world.
They do not have a warrant.
Look, I left this in here because that's the Edda or whatever she's the councilwoman. You saw her approach that officer from behind. This is an officer with a body cam that she's well aware of. She knows that the officer is there, and she sped up to pass the officer and went over and pushed the federal agent. Like, what do you expect us to do at this point?
Well, she's got some entitlement there because she feels like because I'm on the city council that I'm untouchable by the police, right, or that we'll finagle with this police, or I'll call the chief later. And police, by the same token, if they know who they are, they're going to feel intimidated by her because am I really supposed to arrest someone who has say over my job?
Yeah,
I mean, that's a situation that you don't need to be coming into when you have a de facto riot in the street, right?
Yeah, here I'll be showing my police bias again, but to her credit, she one of the officers, when she took off, she went into turbo and she started tugging at the federal agent. One of the officers, the guy wearing the body cam, started yelling her name. I think her name is like Edda or something. Edda. And he went to grab her and he kind of pulled her out of there as a voice of reason and said, hey, you can't do this. You got to stop fighting them or something. And she pushed him off, not in a threatening manner, not in a like aggressive, like I'm pushing you away. It was just like, get your hands off of me, pushed him off and said, I'm not going to stop fighting. So she was definitely aggressive to the federal agent. She was definitely hearing and responding to what her local police officer was telling her to do. She snap back into the reality for that moment. She said, like, from a what did you call it, entitlement standpoint, I like, she at least took pause to address him and say, no, I'm not going to stop fighting. Like, basically, I'm fighting for the people. John, this is in an article, I think.
Yeah, I want to read this article from WBUR, which is a news outlet near Worcester. Worcester officials released disturbing body cam footage of ICE standoff. Did you find that disturbing, first of all? Probably yes, but for different reasons.
Sensationalized, but
City officials in Worcester released 911 calls of body cam footage, which is what you just saw, from a dramatic standoff around an ICE arrest last week that drew angry protesters and a dozen of Worcester police officers, again, called by the protesters by 911. City manager Eric Batista and police chief Paul Saucier, what a name, released 3 separate videos totaling about an hour of footage depicting officers as they arrive amid a chaotic scene. The fracas played out on Eureka Street on May 8, as federal agents arrested Brazilian national Rosanne Fioria de Oliveira. I think I'm pretty close on that one.
yes.
The footage of a family being torn apart is disturbing to watch, but the municipality cannot interfere in or prevent a federal department. That's wake up time for adults. That's just the truth, folks. That's ruled by law, Batista said in a statement. As a community, we must come together in support of one another and not allow external forces to divide us. That is what a leader says. Now, I don't even necessarily agree with this guy, but he's saying, let's not be divided on this. He's calling for at least a calm sentiment, not like, let's take to the streets and show these federal guys what's what. The video shows community members pleading with Worcester police not to take the side of ICE agents, who summoned the crowd accused of conducting a kidnapping. Footage also shows local police arresting a Brazilian teenager, the daughter of Fioria, as she screamed hysterically and chased the vehicle that was taking her mother away. The girl was tackled by multiple officers before being loaded into an ambulance for unknown injuries. Now, hold on. We don't know that she was injured at all. If there's a use of force by a police officer on a person, we're going to have them checked out by ambulance. We don't know that she was injured. Saucier announced Friday that police would call for leniency against the girl, which is the right thing to do. The Worcester Police Department is requesting that the court dismiss the case against the juvenile that was arrested during this incident, but it's important to emphasize that assaulting or interfering with law enforcement officers as they carry out their duties is never acceptable, Saucier said in a statement. Again, he probably doesn't agree with me, but he's right. The 911 tapes released Friday include calls from an ICE agent, a fourth official reporting that 25 people had surrounded an agent. Another caller portrayed ICE as the villain and demanded that the city's police chief arrive at the scene. The word demanded there is quite accurate. It was almost like I said, it was a power struggle.
Yeah.
Batista, the city manager, issued an executive order Friday barring police from participating in the enforcement of immigration laws. Okay, well, they weren't there until you called them there, and they still weren't participating in the immigration enforcement. They were dealing strictly with the crowd.
Yeah.
Except in response to requests deemed necessary to ensure officer safety. A police officer's never going to not respond to another officer in danger. So if you put ICE agents in danger, the police are showing up, even if you're in a sanctuary city, even if the government is in full support of not taking any action to enforce federal laws about coming into the country. Police officers, agents getting into trouble, police officers are still going to respond to help them. Critics say Worcester already had similar policies on the books. They are calling for an investigation into the police involvement in the May 8 ICE action. What's to investigate? ICE has its own laws to enforce. They have federal law. Whether you like it or not, being in this country undocumented is a violation of federal law. If you don't like that, we have a system for changing it, but we don't just circumvent the law with a mob in the streets. Massachusetts High Court ruling from 2017 found that state law does not permit local law enforcement to detain people solely on request from federal immigration authorities. Worcester's new rules do not prevent police from working with ICE on other matters. It's time to grow up. It's time to realize that there's a policy that's set forth on the national level by federal agents, and you can go out there, but don't expect for your local police department to take your side and stop federal agents from doing their job, because it just shows you got an F in high school government. Drew?
Stop sensationalizing. Just deal in the truth. And if somebody tells you the truth and you take offense to it, there's a reason for that. It's because you don't want to hear the truth.
Sometimes the truth just is offensive. I mean, we can't live in a world where everything is hunky dory and everything is just copacetic with our worldview. You're going to come into conflict with things that contrast with your worldview and make you feel uncomfortable. And that's how you know it's the truth. Why would the entire world agree with you and what you think and what you feel?
Casey Anthony killed her daughter, and she was not guilty in a trial.
Scott Peterson was fishing, and he's now serving life in prison.
And I don't like the outcome of that, but I have to live with it because she sat with a jury of her peers, and Jose Baez, I think is his name, was her attorney, and he put on a good case and defeated the state's case. That's it. That's the way it goes.
But had justice been meted out by a crowd in the street, she would have had a noose around her neck as America's most hated mom.
Yes, exactly.
Because that's how we would respond emotionally, right? To a child being killed. That's what emotions dictate you do. And when a mother is being taken out of this country, emotions dictate you react this way, but this cannot be our official response. And we cannot be calling police officers to a scene and then battering those police officers. This is not what a civilized society does, and it's not what adults do. And if you're going to behave like a child, you're going to end up in timeout like a child, which, as for an adult, means going to jail. So if that's your conviction, go out there and protest and say whatever you want and petition the government. But just remember that your right to protest and petition the government only extends so far as the tip of your finger. Once you reach out and you touch somebody else, your rights are over there. You don't have the right to batter a police officer or anybody else. So just remember that you're taking your own rights into your own hands at that point. If you want to be a part of the show, you can call us. You could petition the show for change. We'll hear you out. Probably not. You can call 848-COMM 911. That's 848-266-6911. Drew, I have a voicemail if you feel like hearing about what is most definitely a Karen Reed voicemail.
Go for it.
Boil Drew's blood. Let's do it.
Hey, John and Drew, this is Jim from Florida. Calling about the episode of Karen Reed and the use of the expert testimony of the engineer in the trial. It was a great episode. You guys brought up a lot of great points, especially the fact of these guys don't care who wins or loses. It's how they present the information. And very true. I'm not sure which one of you guys said it. Who can their testimony is an audition for their next client. So true. These guys are worth their weight in gold. And obviously, based on the fact that they get paid a ton of money, and the good ones, obviously make a very good living at it. So looking forward to future episodes and seeing what happens with the Karen Reed trial. It's an up and down. The defense wins one week, prosecution wins another week. So we'll see how it goes. Thank you, guys.
I did the other night, John, a live stream. You joined me at the end where I had AI, specifically ChatGPT, pick the truth between the two expert witnesses. I fed it nothing but clean information of sworn testimony from the two of them. And I did not want to intervene and give it any push either way. And I think you would be very surprised because what I did was I had it, hey, summarize what he was testing for, summarize what he was testing for. Now put these two together and tell me who was more right or who was more wrong. Then at the end, John, I said, now tell me what you think happened to John O'Keefe. That video is going to be distilled down and edited, and you can find it right here.
Drew, a popular one in the new era of our robot overlords. We will see you next week on Comm Center. Thanks for watching this episode, Drew. It's been a pleasure.
1,000 episodes.
1,000 episodes of Comm Center.